Hello and welcome back to Power Skills with Janna. I'm Janna Jones, your leadership development specialist, coach, and mentor, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today, we are diving into a topic that every leader and high achiever wrestles with constantly: motivation. How to spark it, how to sustain it, and how to manage the inevitable ups and downs. Because motivation is not constant. It's not the switch you flick on and forget about. One week, you're laser focused and unstoppable. Next, you're responding to 5,000 emails and have a seamlessly endless to do list that isn't progressing. And you wonder where the day has gone. Well, that is normal. We can work with that. What we can't work with is pretending that it's not happening. While burying your head in the sand may seem like a good idea, by the time you resurface, usually things are worse. Instead, I want to help you treat motivation like a skill, actually, a power skill, that you can cultivate in yourself and the people you lead. We will cover the science just enough to make it practical, the mindset shifts you need, and a stack of tools and some small practices that you can use immediately as well. I'll share some stories from leaders I've coached or worked with to help contextualize it and steps towards progress wherever you're at. As always, we will finish with a challenge to help you put everything into practice because growth does not happen with knowledge acquisition, listening and learning, but it comes when you choose to do something different or try something new. If you like these episodes, please, please, please take the time to subscribe. It genuinely helps us to get more leaders tuned in, and it means the world to me personally as well. All right, let's get into it. Motivation is the fuel that drives us and our teams, our goals, our growth. But it's not a switch you flip on and leave running. It's dynamic. It's influenced by internal factors like purpose and external ones like rewards or pressure. So, neuroscience shows us that motivation is tied to dopamine, the reward chemical in your brain's ventral striatum. When you anticipate something positive, like achieving a goal, dopamine surges, boosting energy. But in uncertainty or routine, it dips, leaving you in a slump. As leaders, managing motivation is key because it's not just about you. You set the tone for your team as well. Do you expect everyone to stay constantly motivated? That's got to be a recipe for frustration. Intrinsic motivation, that which comes from within, like passion and purpose, sustains long-term drive, while extrinsic motivation, like recognition or reward, can spark short-term action, but they tend to fizzle out without internal buy-in. I worked with a leader who assumed his team's low energy was laziness. He pushed extrinsic incentives, bonuses for stretch targets, but burnout started to emerge. When we dug a little bit deeper, it was an intrinsic issue, lack of purpose, alignment to the vision. By aligning tasks with the team's values and operational expectations, motivation started to soar. That's the power of understanding motivation's ups and downs, including where it comes from, or in this case, where it hits a barrier. In our fast changing world, like the hybrid shifts we talked about in adaptive leadership, motivation is, of course, going to fluctuate, perhaps more so than ever. If you can manage it wisely, you can amplify your impact. Step 1. Let's understand the intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. To manage what is a fairly hefty topic, perhaps we're going to start by defining intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic obviously comes from within, joy, purpose, growth. Extrinsic is external, rewards, praise, avoidance of punishment, for example. You might like to start by assessing your own motivators, reflecting on what it is that drives you. Is it purpose, your sense of contributing or helping others, which is intrinsic? Or deadlines, also very valid, but extrinsic? Neuroscience shows that intrinsic motivation engages the prefrontal cortex for a more sustainable focus. Perhaps you may even like to consider understanding your team's motivations, asking curious questions like, what energizes you? because everyone is unique and individual, and one person will thrive on autonomy, another may like recognition or acknowledgement of their progress from you or other external feedback loops. It's incredibly helpful to know. Otherwise, we tend to support our team in the way that we would like to be supported, but that is different for all of us. You can always have a mix of both for a little bit more balance as well. You can balance the scales by perhaps leveraging extrinsic to kickstart and intrinsic to sustain. So, like in goal setting, where we tie rewards to meaningful goals. My client led a sales team with declining motivation. Typically, sales team incentives are extrinsic, things like bonuses, which help short term but can wane over time. So she started to lean more into the intrinsic by linking sales to customer impact stories. The bonus was doubled because sales rose 15% and the team felt much more connected to the outcomes that they were creating for others. Balance in this way can help to keep motivation steady. If motivation feels elusive, remember that it's not constant. Understand the types and know that there are ebbs and flows and that you can combat some of the lower days as well. Step 2, regulate your own motivation ups and downs. Speaking of lower or flatter days, this is something that I have to tell leaders quite often. You can't pour from an empty cup. We need to be able to regulate our ups and downs. So let's consider how you might start to manage your own motivation. Maybe you might like to track your triggers. Notice patterns. What drains you? Let me guess, endless meetings, the hundreds of emails piling up perhaps. Similarly, consider what boosts you. Perhaps it's creative brainstorming. Jot down your self-reflection insights to build greater awareness here. Refuel intrinsically. Connecting to my purpose always helps me when things are feeling a bit flat. Perhaps you might ask, why does this matter? Why is it important? Or what impact can I have here? Neuroscience shows that purpose activates dopamine pathways for longer term drive. And use extrinsic boosts wisely. Set small rewards like taking a walk after a task. I have a timer on my desk. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed by something, for example, endless emails, I will set myself 60 minutes, fondly known in our house as an hour of power. I just have to get through 1 hour of the thing, and it will usually make massive progress, more than I initially thought. So then I go and grab a cuppa as my reward after that. It's such a good way to navigate occasionally, but it's important to avoid over-reliance on it because extrinsic can reduce or crowd out our intrinsic motivation over time, as per Edward Dece's research. I worked with a C-suite executive whose motivation tanked during restructuring. Understandable, right? He tracked his downs. Isolation as his peers shifted, reduced team capability and capacity, and his ups as well, whether that was team wins or resilience. By scheduling connection time like coffee chats, he regained energy. Because we really can't keep giving from an empty cup. So paying attention to and self-regulating your motivation models that for your team as well. Motivation dips are absolutely normal. Consider what you might be able to do to help refill your own cup with intention. And step 3, because you filled your cup first, right? Now you can spark team motivation. Intrinsic first. I feel a bit like an airline attendant as I say this. Now that we've got ourselves sorted, strapped in and secure, we can lead by igniting intrinsic drive in others. Start by connecting to your purpose. Share the why behind tasks. Like we spoke about in our episode on unconscious bias, you may want to link work tasks or objectives to values and vision for deeper engagement. Link your team's purpose to organizational or financial year objectives and KPIs. Foster autonomy. Give choice in how goals are met. Research shows autonomy boosts intrinsic motivation. Many organizational goals are cascaded for that reason, but we forget to link that sense of autonomy into the why when we communicate with people. And as a result, it can feel a lot like falling in the dark. Instead, support your teams with determining their pathway and their contribution to their goals. Support and engage always. And encouraging mastery is also so incredibly valuable. Providing growth opportunities like stretch assignments, leading improvement initiatives, or giving the work back that we spoke about in the last episode on embracing adaptive leadership. A team I coached struggled with motivation post company merger. The leader shifted to focus on intrinsic by hosting purpose shares, and team members connected tasks to their own personal values and shared what they found valuable and meaningful in their work and what they felt was their sweet spot. It was able to help them contribute more to the team. Motivation rebounded with innovation spiking. Intrinsic sparks sustain. Step 4, use extrinsic motivation thoughtfully because extrinsic motivation still has its place. Use it to complement the intrinsic. Align rewards, for example. Tie bonuses, acknowledgement, and recognition to meaningful progress, collaboration, engagement, great work, not just output. Avoid overuse because extrinsic can undermine intrinsic if it feels controlling, as per self-determination theory. Personalize to the individual. What motivates one person, like public acknowledgement and recognition, might make someone else deeply uncomfortable, and perhaps they would prefer a quiet thanks. A sales leader I work with used extrinsic contests, but started to see burnout. So by personalizing flex time for some, buyback time schemes, for example, and recognition for others, team motivation started to balance out. Thoughtful extrinsic opportunities can amplify intrinsic motivation when it's done thoughtfully and well. Step 5, celebrate and sustain motivation. Never a last step without celebrating successes, especially in this instance, because celebration does keep motivation alive. Acknowledge efforts. Recognize the small wins. Dopamine reinforces drive. Reflect together. Perhaps you might like to debrief the highs and lows with your confidence, your coach, or your mentor in order to learn. Build habits. Stack motivation boosters like daily gratitude shares or weekly reflection meetings that end with celebrating success or acknowledging each other. A client celebrated team milestones with motivation shares. It sustained energy in tough times because celebration isn't optional. It is essential. All right, let's consider some power practices that you can take action on today to amplify motivation. Maybe you want to start with a motivation audit. Perhaps tracking 1 week's ups and downs. What triggers them? How do they typically play out for you? What is it that gets in the way? Purpose pause. Daily, ask yourself, why does this matter? How is this linked to our why? Or why is what we're doing here meaningful? Autonomy boost. Give your team one choice this week. It might be in the form of a toolbox topic or an improvement initiative to progress on, even a process to streamline or reinvigorate. Reward mixing. Set one intrinsic and one extrinsic motivator. Notice what it is that your team appreciates more. Gratitude shares are also a great way to acknowledge others. Perhaps you might thank someone for their energy and contribution that they made to the latest projects and note the impact. Breaking them down in this way may seem incredibly simple, but impact here is the key. People love to know what good looks like, and when we're able to align the work purposefully, give some autonomy, support mastery, and recognize and reward, our people grow and develop, and start to grow and develop our organization as a result. If that is not motivation enough to dig deep into this topic, I don't know what is. And I mean extrinsic and intrinsic motivations for focusing on motivation here. Credit where credit is due, please. So I wanted to talk through some self-reflection questions so that you can start to ignite your own focus. Let's pause here. Grab a pen or just take the time to think these through. And I mean this genuinely because understanding is not key, as I mentioned. The key to unleashing your leadership is taking that learning and awareness and putting it into practice. So dig deep here where you can. What is one motivation dip that you've had lately? And what triggered it? How might intrinsic drivers shift your energy? Who on your team could use a motivation boost this week? And how will you celebrate a win? These are some fairly simple stepping stones to help you navigate the ever-shifting tide that is motivation. And your challenge this week, if you are serious about your own growth and development, your leadership and supporting others, I absolutely encourage you to choose to accept it. Pick one motivation dip that can trip you up and choose to do something different. For example, I might set a smarter goal because I like to habit stack, something along the lines of, this week I'll journal 3 intrinsic motivators daily, including intrinsic and extrinsic motivators at the start of the week, and follow up by the end of the week, noting my energy and that of the team as we go along. Share that with a colleague or even your team, specifically if you want some feedback on what resonated with them. Remembering each individual is unique and they may value something different or even a balance. Taking action in this way is the lever that can amplify your leadership, your team's engagement, and ultimately your organization's performance, one step at a time. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. It's important to remember that motivation is not constant. It is a skill to manage. By focusing on intrinsic drive and thoughtful extrinsic boost, you can amplify your leadership to the advantage of all of those around you. If today's episode sparked something in you, I would love to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to connect on LinkedIn or Instagram at Power Skills Development, or visit www.powerskillsdevelopment.com for more free resources and to subscribe to our weekly email Power Pause, or share with another switched on leader who you think may value these insights too. Until next time, stay curious, stay intentional, and remember, you can't give from an empty cup. Recharge your own tank first, then you can lead with motivation wisely, empowering powerfully, one step at a time. Enjoy the rest of your week.